Okay, so this video is on the sheet I gave you in class. I don't know if you got to finish or not, but here it is anyway. So the first questions here. Let me see. That's not. This is how. Okay. So the first question asks to tell me if the product is negative or positive. So I'm not asking to multiply, but just look at the integers and then tell me if it's positive or negative, and then explain your reasoning. All right. So it's a positive number times a negative, so my answer is going to be, so I'm going to write positive because the signs are different, right? We talked about it. The signs are different. Signs are different. Right? If you're multiplying a positive and a negative, you're going to get a negative. Oh, did I write positive? Sorry, I meant to say negative. So negative because the signs are different. Here we have a negative and negative, so a negative and negative is going to give you a positive, so positive. So this one is positive because the signs are the same. Very close. The signs are the same. We know that if the signs are the same, the product will always be positive. Last one's a negative times a positive, so this one the signs are different, right? So negative because the signs are different. Okay. Now the next 6, you're asking to multiply. Negative 13 times 0, obviously. You know that any number times 0 is 0. 5, it's a positive times a negative, so I know first of all my answer is going to be negative. And then 15 times 2 is just 30. Negative times a negative is a positive. I'll write the positive sign just to illustrate that it's positive, but we don't need to. So 6 times 13 is 1878. Negative 11 times 11 is a negative times a positive. It's negative 121, right? This one, there's 3 numbers multiplying, so it's these two. So let's take care of these two. Positive times a negative is going to give me negative. It's 6 times 9 is 54. Then I'm going to take that and multiply with negative 1. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 54 times 1 is 54. Next 2 is a negative times a negative times a negative. So negative times a negative, first of all, is 21, right? Positive. Then we're going to take that and multiply by negative 5. And then the positive times the negative is a negative 105. Okay? Pretty simple. These ones a little bit, and we talked about in class, so let's take a look at the first one. Negative 3 to the second power. Now notice that the negative 3 is in parentheses, so that power there affects both the integer, the number 3, and the sign. So it's the whole thing to the second power, which means it's negative 3 times negative 3. So that's what it looks like expanded. So negative 3 times negative 3 is just positive 9, because a negative times a negative is a positive. Here it's negative 2, and again it's in parentheses. Big difference when the number is in parentheses. So we're going to take the whole thing. Everybody who's inside the parentheses will be multiplied by itself 3 times. So expand it out. Negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4, right? 2 times 2 is 4, and negative times a negative is a positive. And then we're going to multiply that by the last negative 2. Well, it's a positive times a negative, which gives me a negative, and 4 times 2 is 8. This one says minus 7 to the second power, and the only person here raised to the second power is a 7, not the minus. So I'm going to, that minus sign, let me just put it here on the side, and then take care of this 7 to the second power. 7 to the second power is 7 times 7, right? So that's, I'm expanding only the 7, not the minus sign. So it's, well, let's keep that negative sign outside, and 7 times 7 is 49. Okay, big difference. Here, and likewise, the cube here, the third power, is only affecting the 6. So let's put the minus sign here, and then expand the 6. We're going to go 6 times 6 times 6. Well, that minus sign just stays here, right? And let's figure out what 6 times 6 times 6 is. 6 times 6 is 36, and 36 times 6 is 216, I believe. And your answer should have been 216. Okay. Well, substitute. A is negative 2, B is 3, and C is negative 8. So if we substitute, we get negative 2. And I like putting in parentheses. Times, and we're going to multiply that by B, which is 3. Well, that's simple enough. And actually, B was not negative, so I'm just going to write it without the parentheses. So I get negative 2 times 3, and negative times a positive is negative, and 6. A times B times C would look something like this. Times 3, and then times C, which is negative 8. You can multiply these two first. That gives you negative 6. And then you got to multiply that by negative 8. And a negative times a negative is a positive 48. AB cubed minus AC. So let's do A. No, sorry. A is negative 2. Put in parentheses. B is 3. And that's the one who's being raised to the third power. Okay. So the third power is on top of that, the base 3. And then minus A, which again, put in parentheses. And multiplied by C, which is negative 8. Now put that in parentheses. So now you got a nice little expression. Order of operation dictates that we do exponents first, so let's take care of that. So negative 2 just stays as it is. 3 to the third power is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. And then minus, and I'm just going to write it out. I'm not going to do anything else. So all I did was change the exponent here, okay, to standard form. Now, let's do these two, because you have to do that. Where do you go? Multiplication comes before subtraction. So negative 2 times 27 is a negative times a positive, which is negative. And 2 times 27 is 54. Minus, going to leave that minus, and I can multiply these two now. So negative times a negative, it's going to be positive. And 2 times 8 is 16. So positive 16. And that's what it looks like. Now, those of you who are comfortable subtracting in this manner without changing it to an addition problem, you may. Those of you who want to change it, I will change it. So to change this, we're going to change it to an addition problem where we add the first add-in, right? We're going to add the additive inverse of the second add-in, okay? So that stays. Now change the subtraction to addition, and we're going to use the additive inverse of 16, which is negative 16. Right, so now we're going to add these two. Well, it's a negative plus a negative, so when we know that anytime we add two negatives, the answer is negative, and it just goes further down on the left side of the number line, right? So we're moving further away to the left, and that equals to negative 7. That's where we end up. Okay. You lose $5 every time you miss a day of school. Oof. Write an integer to represent the change in dollars balance if you were to miss 3 days. Well, every time you miss school, you're minus 5, right? So we're going to multiply that by 3, right? Because that's how many times you miss school, and a negative times a positive is a negative, and 5 times 3 is 15. So your balance, you would have been a negative 15 at the end of 3 days. Okay. Explain your reasoning. Two integers a and b have a product of 24. So that means that a times b equals 24. What is the least possible sum of a and b? So if I were to add a and b, what's the two smallest numbers I can get? So I need to find every single number that multiply by each other gives you 24. But I want the smallest sum. So let me give you a few examples. So 3 times 8. That works, right? It's 24. 2 times 12 is 24. 1 times 12 is 24. 4 times 6 is 24. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, the other thing that multiply gives me 24 are these numbers. Negative 3 times negative 8 is also 24. So the negative of all the factors that I already listed will also, negative 1 and negative 12, will also give me 24. Sorry, this should not have been 12, this should have been 1. Sorry, 24. So this is 2 times 24. Ew. No. So 2 times 12, that's okay. 1 times 24, and 4 times 8. 4 times 6, jeez, it's 24. On the other side, here's where I made my mistake. That should have been a negative 24 equals 24, and the last one, negative 4 times negative 6 equals 24, because negative times a negative gives you a positive. So these are all the factors that I know of that multiply gives me 24. So they're asking which of these, the 3 and the 8, the 212, the 124, the 4, 6, or all these negative ones, which of them have the least sum? Well, if I add 3 plus 8, I get 11. If I add 2 plus 12, I get, what do I get? 14. If I add 1 plus 24, I get 25. If I add 4 plus 6, I get 24. So which one's the smallest one? So far, this guy is the smallest one. But I haven't done the other side yet. So let's add negative 3 plus negative 8. That gives me negative 11. Negative 2 plus negative 12. That gives me negative 14. Negative 1 plus negative 24. That gives me negative 25. And finally, the last one, negative 4 plus negative 6 gives me negative 10. So really, who is the smallest one? Well, not this guy anymore. So one of the smallest sum, smallest number is this guy right here, negative 25, right? Because that's furthest to the left. Remember, the furthest to the left is always the smallest, and the number to the right, the furthest to the right is always the biggest. So we want the small, is asking you for the least possible sum, which pair of A and B added together gives you the smallest sum, and that's this one, negative 1 and negative 24. So negative 1 and negative 24 gives me the smallest sum. Okay. All right, so far pretty easy. Now this one needs is asking you to graph. So here's an airplane who at it's pretty high up, and at 22,000 feet it starts descending, right? And the time here is in minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna do the first one. So if it's at 20, so you're looking at the airplane, and I'm put the airplane right here, right? And right now the height. The height. So here's my airplane, and the height of the airplane is 22,000 feet. As time goes down, he is going to start descending, right? Because he's getting ready to what do you call land. So every minute that passes, he goes down. What are we talking about? 480 feet. Okay, I know that because it said that's where I get my number from. All right, so I want to know where the airplane is after 5 minutes, after 10 minutes, after 15 minutes, and 20 minutes. So obviously, it's going to be going lower and lower and lower. So to find that, we're going to have to substitute. So let's take the 5 minutes, and I think I can put it in the box. So the first thing I would do is substitute. So I would get 22,000. Actually, I'm not going to have room there, so I'll put it over here. So it's 22,000, right, plus negative 480 t, where t stands for time. So 22,000 plus negative 480, and then t, I'm going to change the t, the time, and substitute with the value here, which is 5. So 22,000, and in 5 minutes, if you multiply 480 times 5, hang on a second. You get 2,400. So after 5 minutes, and again, this is negative because it's a negative times a positive, right? So in 5 minutes, the airplane, right? No, not 24,000, 2,400. Oh my God, who's doing your math? So in 5 minutes, the airplane managed to descend 2,400 feet. Well, the airplane was at 22,000 feet, so we have to obviously subtract here. So 22,000 minus 2,400 is going to give you that the airplane height is at 19,600. So after 5 minutes, where's the airplane? 19,600 feet. So again, if I look at the drawing, I told you if this is 22,000 feet, that's where the airplane is, right? Flying. After 5 minutes, it's now here at 19,600. Right? Then at 10 minutes, we need to find out where he is, at 15 where he is, and at 20 where he is. So let's do what do you call the 10 minutes. So again, we're going to copy the expression, and we're going to substitute. So instead of t, I'm going to write 10 because I want to know what happens after 10 minutes. Well, this one is easy. 22,000 plus and negative times a positive from 480 times 10. It's super easy, 4,800. Right? So now where is his height? We're going to have to subtract. Well, obviously there's more positives here, right? So we know it's going to be a positive answer. So it's going to be, he's going to be at, let me see, 22,000. It's going to be at 17,200. So that's where he is, feet. So after 10 minutes, it's even lower. I'm going to have to repeat the process, and then so I'm going to erase this. Sorry. All right, so I'm going to erase this. Instead of the 480 now, I'm going to, instead of 10, I'm going to use 15. So 480 times 15 is 7,200. That's right. 7,200 negative, right? Because the negative times a positive is a negative. And we're going to do 22,000. And we're going to, well, plus a negative, positive times a negative. We're going to know that it's 14,800. So after 15 minutes, he's even lower, right? You notice that his height, the airplane height is going lower and lower. And we need one more. And we need to know how much the airplane descended in 20 minutes. So the airplane in 20 minutes times 20, right? That's going to be 9,600 because I know that in 10 minutes it was 4,800, so it's 9,600. And then we're going to subtract that, so it's going to be negative 9,600. All right, so we got to subtract from the original height. And we're going to know that at 20 minutes, this is where he is now, 12,400 feet. So this is at 5 minutes, at 7 minutes he's here, at what do you call, at 15 minutes it's 14,800, and then at 20 minutes it's 12,400. So you can tell that he is going lower and lower. There's a graph at the bottom, and I need to remember these numbers in order to graph them. So let me give me a second. I'll take a picture of it right there. All right. So at the bottom, we're going to do baby stuff. We're going to do some graphing. Right. You all know how to graph. So your independent variable will always be in the x-axis, sorry. Right, so time, if we want to just create an axis here, because this is a graph, so that's 0, and I'm going to just extend this. So this whole line here, I'm just going to make a line. I'm sorry because I don't have a ruler, I'm writing on a tablet, it's not easy to make a straight line. Okay, really bad at the end there. Let me erase that. So, oh my god. No better. So this is time, right? And I'm going to write time in minutes. That's represent my time in minutes. And this represents my height in feet. So at 0, not 0 hours, but at this, before I start, what do you call, calculating, he was at 22,000 feet. So we're going to have to find out how we're going to represent 22,000 feet. So we can go by 2, so let's say 2,000, 4, 6, 8, 10. So we can go by 2,000. So every square, I'm going to make that 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000, 12,000, 14,000, 16,000, 18,000, 20,000, and then 22,000. So he's flying, and then we want to calculate it from this moment on. So at that moment, he's at 22,000 feet. And here, over here, we did it by what? Let me just check the picture that I took. We did it by 5 minutes increment. So there's a lot of space. So I'm going to make that every 2 boxes is 5 minutes. 5, 10, 15, 20. I could have made 3. It's okay. So at 22,000, right, we start the clock. 5 minute passes, and in 5 minute passes, he's now at 19,600. So after 5 minutes, it's 19,000. And you're not going to get it precise, so it's between here, closer to 20,000. So this is 18, about here. right? At 10 minutes, he's at 17,200, 17,000. So at 10 minutes, we followed this up, and it's 17,200 is between 16 and 18, a little bit over here. At 15, he's at 14,800. So you're gonna have to ballpark this 14,800. Well, the middle part, so it's a little bit less in the middle. At 20 minutes, he's at 12,400, which is definitely over here. So we can sort of connect a line, right? That's what I would. I'm not gonna make this a straight line, okay, but this is the graph that I would put, and I don't have 25. Leave it like that. Okay, actually, I'm not even gonna connect the dots. Maybe it's not a great idea. So I'm gonna just put it like this. Okay, and that's where you were supposed to be at the bottom, and you give it this a title, airplane descent for the first 20 minutes. Okay, so there's your title. So you label your x-axis, your y-axis. Your intervals are good here, up and down. They're the same. We're going by 2000s. On the x-axis, where every 2 boxes represents 5 minutes, and we have a title. So we're good, and that's it.